Okay, so we've learned how to go through the color correction workflow. We really dissected each part of the process in the last movie, and in this movie, we'll go much faster so you can see the changes take place in real time. All right, so I've got my Y waveform monitor loaded here, and I'm going to set my blacks and whites. So right about here is probably the shadows in her neck here, and I want to make sure that that's approaching 16, so I'm going to drag my setup to the left a little bit, okay? And I think I'm pretty happy with that. It doesn't have to be black because those might not be true black values, but I'll keep them right there. Now let's talk about our whites. If you remember from the first movie in this chapter, we recognized that the lightest part of the image were these specular highlights, this glinting glass in the background, but we're not going to define that as white, right? We're going to let that soar above 235, okay? So we're going to actually let that be above white, so that the lightest parts of her face are going to approach that value. Now, the lightest parts of her face are not white, so we're not going to bring them up to full 235, but we're going to bring them up to approach white. Now, when I bring that up, notice what happened to my darkest values, okay? It's a little bit of a dance. It's sort of pulling the blacks away from 16. So you kind of have to go back a little bit and make it an adjustment. It's like a little dance here. And same thing happened. I might need to bring my gain back up as we're defining our tonal range here. But already things are looking a lot better. Here's the before and after. Okay, so she's already looking a lot healthier. And maybe just open it up a little bit more, like so. Okay, again, I have a few stray values up here, but don't worry, we'll clip those later. And then I come to my gamma, and I'm just going to ride this a little bit. I'm going to see what it looks like if I brighten the image or if I darken the image. And I think it's a little bit too washed out if I brighten it. So I'm just going to bring this down just a tiny bit. And I think I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to switch to my RGB parade. And this is really weighted towards red. But you know what? There's a lot of red in the image. We're not looking at the parade in general. We're looking at the black and white values. So right here, again, are our black values. And that's measuring right here, here, and here. Okay, and they're pretty close. I might need to bring down my reds just a tiny bit. Let's just measure it real quick. So yeah, so they're a little bit high. So I'm going to take my shadow chroma wheel and drag away from red. Okay, and things adjusted in the RGB parade. I'll take another measurement here, and things are pretty close. I like that. I could measure white, although it's a specular highlight, so it's not the best measurement to make here. And again, things are a little bit red in the highlights, so I'm probably going to just do a similar adjustment in the highlights. Okay, and remeasure that. And things are getting closer. That's close enough for me to say that we've neutralized the image. Let's go to the vector scope. And we've got a lot of yellow and red, okay? Here's a tiny bit of cyan and blue, which is the background. And the reason that it's so close to the middle is that they're very desaturated colors, whereas we have very saturated reds and yellows. So we need to be careful of this because we might want to affect her flesh tones, but we don't want to just go crazy with her red shirt here. So I'm going to take my mid-tone chroma wheel and just sort of ride this up just a tiny bit. Okay, I want to see kind of what that does to the image. And then I'm going to ride it back down, cool it off a little bit. And I'm actually thinking that warming it up doesn't do as much for me. I think I'm going to cool her midtones off just a little bit, but I'm then going to come into controls and bump up the saturation a little, okay? So her shirt is definitely pretty saturated, but I think I like the way the flesh tones are turning out. Let me do another before and after. Okay, so I think she's looking nice, and then we need to make sure to clip low, clip high here. All right, so not bad. I'm pretty happy with this adjustment. Once again, that's the manual color correction workflow from start to finish. You'll begin to get quite efficient at it as you keep practicing. And in the next movie, we'll take a look at some things you can do to automate the process.